This whole idea started a couple of weeks ago, and I came across something quite interesting, and that is that some people have designed adapters that allow you to load 35mm into a 120 camera. And I just happen to have a friend who has a PLA 3D printer, so he printed me out 2 adapters. And short story is, they work. They're actually pretty cool. So if we have a can of 35mm film here, you can see it obviously isn't the right size to fit into the 120 spool, so you just need to adapt it. So you just take the adapter with the small end, put it on here, and it fits over the top. And then all we need to do is load it into the camera. So take our camera, open the back. We're going to take out our film magazine, put the camera aside for now. And then we just take our film. Now when you're loading the film, you need to be fairly careful here. The problem here is that you need to expose the film correctly. So you need the matte side of the film, the inside of the film. So when you put this into a normal 35mm camera, it sort of fits in like this, and you stretch the film across the back like so. So we want to replicate that inside the Bronica. So this is where we need our film to face kind of out this way. This is towards the lens. So to do that, you put the film can in with the exit of the film here. This sort of the felt edge of the film in here. So we just pop open the flap, and then we just pop it in like so, lock it in place. So now our can loaded, and then we just wind it around the same way you would 120 film, all the way around, and you feed it into the take-up spool. Wind it a little bit to put a bit of tension on it, and then you load it into your camera, wind it on like 120 film, and just shoot as normal. And the problem with this is that when you shoot that, you're winding up the film on this spool here, this take-up spool. So you've no way to rewind the film back into your canister, and this leads to an issue where you can't open up the back of the camera to take the film out like you would a 120 roll. You just expose and destroy your film. So you have to take this back out, rewind it back into the canister in either a dark room or a dark bag or a changing bag of some kind. The other problem is that this does waste quite a bit of film. And the reason it wastes quite a bit of film is, you'll notice here we've got 12 pictures. And that is the amount of exposures you'll get on a 120 roll if you're using a 120 back. But here you can actually see the wasted film. So all of the see-through area of film is actually waste. That is all unexposed film. So this is the start of the reel. You can see the leader, and then it's just completely wasted. And the reason for this is that this camera winds on quite a bit. And this is due to the design of 120 film. So with 120 film, you're actually winding the backing paper on, and then it will get to the film where the film starts, and then you start shooting your pictures. And the other issue is that if you're shooting a 36 exposure roll, 12 pictures is not enough to fill the entire roll. So you end up with this at the end of the roll waste, and this is like a good 6 images maybe, and you have at least another 3 images here. So you're wasting 7 to 9 frames that you could be shooting. Problem here is that we need to adapt the film a bit better rather than just getting it to fit and load into the camera. So in order to shoot more frames than 12, we're going to have to use a different back. I'm going to essentially add some backing paper to the start of the film so that it won't waste film at the start. And then I'll be able to shoot as many frames as I need to on the 220 back, and just shoot and shoot and shoot until it won't wind anymore basically. Once it jams and it stops winding, I'll know I've reached the end of the roll. As for the images themselves, the question is going through all this hassle worth it with this test roll? So if we compare the frame sizes, you can actually see that it's a little bit wider. It's about 1.5 times wider than it. But the other effect you get is you're also exposing the sprockets, which I think looks pretty cool. Is it worth it? I would say straight up, in a 120 backed camera, no. If you have a 220 camera, like a Pentax 6.7, which can switch between the two formats, or you have a 220 back for a modular camera, I'd say it's actually worth it, and you can get some really, really cool images. There is one more limitation I want to mention very, very quickly, and it's the reason this is out. So in a 120 camera, if you're using a 645 camera, for example, it's actually not worth it very much at all. This is because in a 645, generally the film goes through it vertically. And the reason for this is that it takes a 6 wide, 4.5 high image. If you're shooting a 6x6 camera, it can go either way. And in my Bronica, if we open the Bronica here, you see the film travel sort of from this side to this side around the back. So it's shooting vertically through the camera. When you load your 35mm film, you're just going to get a little strip of film down the middle here. Yeah, this little strip. And this little strip is a problem because you then, when you load it, you have essentially a vertical panorama, which isn't all that useful. Generally, panoramas are horizontal. Although I did take a few vertical shots, like one of this kind of crane thingamajig. There's a simple fix. I know, it's amazing. It's this mind-blowing fix I came up with. It's called rotating the camera. The only problem is rotating this camera is a goddamn absolute nightmare. And the simple reason is the viewfinder on these is left to right inverted. When you rotate the camera, it's up and down inverted, but then the roll's changing, trying to get it level. My solution to this problem is actually pretty straightforward. It's called buy an L bracket. Mount the camera on your tripod like this, frame your image, get your image ready, get the camera level, which is very tricky to do when the camera's sideways, and then rotate the camera on its side and then take your picture. This requires a bit of foresight because this distance here is slightly larger than this distance here. So you'll have to account for that when you rotate the camera. You might have to frame things a little lower so that when the camera gets rotated, it's actually a little higher. But it keeps the camera level and stable. So I'd highly recommend picking up an L bracket if your camera feeds vertically. Now, if you're shooting on a 6.7 camera, for example, the Orbi 6.7 with the rotating back, you can just rotate the back and shoot horizontally and you're done. The last problem is the viewfinder. So the ground glass in here only has frame lines for 6.45 and 6x6. So your viewfinder, you're pretty much just sort of guessing how wide the image is. Now obviously with a bit of experience you'll figure it out, but you're still guessing a little bit. So overall it is a fun experiment. I'm definitely going to look into it a bit more and make a follow-up. But as for a main format, no, have some fun with it. You know, buy some of these adapters. You can buy these pretty cheap or get them 3D printed. But I would say fun experiment, worth trying out. B+.